Shelter and Pittsburgh. Alright. Good, I'll take that next Wednesday. Usually we'll find it out there now. I'll get over that.
What is going on, guys? All right, today's show is brought to you by BUSR Sportsbook. Bet everything from horse racing to the 2020 election. Visit busr.com/going-for-2 to sign up, get a welcome bonus, and bet on this weekend's NFL games. We have a great show as always tonight, guys. We had a rough week last week, hoping to bounce back, so stay tuned.
Fantasy football, you dealing with the best. Keep it hype, authentic, this ain't nothing like the rest. With the Armchair Fantasy Show podcast, give advice for all the listeners to improve your stats. Yeah, we live on goingfor2.com. Tuesdays and Fridays, this is what you want. Talking dynasties and daily drafts, and we just getting started, that ain't even the half. Yeah, so go ahead, tell your friends to join. Going for 2, cause no one remembers the extra point. Hey, goingfor2.com, the Armchair Fantasy Show.
Hi guys, what's going on? Welcome to episode 173 of the Armchair Fantasy Show. I'm your host, of course, Geoff Lambert. You can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77, and we are live here every Wednesday and Friday night on Facebook Live, Periscope, YouTube, and Twitch, syndicated on all major podcast networks, and of course, streaming the Going for 2 app for iOS and Android. I'm here as always with my two co-hosts. One of them is in Vegas right now. You can hear him in the background with all that background noise. Tim and Gerson, what's up, guys?
What up?
Yes, sir. As you can see in the background, that is not a background. That is actual strip of Las Vegas behind me. I am also, in honor of Gerson, drinking a Modelo Las Vegas Raiders edition.
Nice.
Cheers, Tim.
Good stuff. Tim is live from Vegas. Gerson is live from his bedroom. What's up, Gerson?
Not a bedroom, it's an office, asshole.
Hey, I will tell y'all now, I am on the crappy hotel Wi-Fi, so if I ut out, you know why.
All right, yeah.
What?
What'd you say, Tim?
What?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, so we have a very interesting week, but before we get into it, let's go hit the rewind.
The Weekly Rewind. Rewind.
You know, it's always fun to talk about when we had a good week, but it's not quite as fun when we had a bad week. I think we all pretty much had bad weeks. A lot of the chalk busted. Yeah. Some of our plays didn't really pan out. We had a couple good calls. Gerson, talk about what you had good and what you had bad last week.
As everybody, back kind of going into something. As everybody knows, I always look at my rewind and other stuff. The next day, I woke up at like 4 in the morning just to check where I went wrong. Honestly, all the chalk busted, and then a lot of the plays I was on underperformed, and when I say they underperformed, they only went for like 2.1 value or 2.3, just not enough to win your GPP. Hell, even cash games. I mean, you had to have a pretty unique cash game to win. You had to be different a little bit, but it was just a rough week. Oh well, it happened.
Yeah, definitely. I think a couple of the plays that I hit on, I didn't have enough exposure to. Like I called out Todd Gurley. I think I only had one lineup with Todd Gurley. I liked the Kyler Murray and D-Hop stack, and I only had one stack with them. I called out Austin Hooper. I only had him in one. So if I had just played the plays that I talked about into one lineup instead of spreading them out, maybe I would have been good. But I played a lot of the chalk like CEH, and of course we had OZ. I'm not even going to say his name. I know he only had like 1.2 points. He was like minimum salary, but a lot of them just didn't hit up. Tim, what about you?
Well, I'm sorry you guys didn't have a good week, but I killed it last week. I had a top 10% cash game score, even though I had OZ and CEH in my cash line. Teddy, Mike Davis, D-Hop, Ezekiel Elliott. I told y'all on the show last week everybody was going to play the Steelers. You should play the Ravens instead. I hope you listened to me. I had the Ravens in the roundtable arena and in my cash game lineup, and they were only 5% owned. So you definitely wanted the Ravens last week. And that obviously worked out for me. I scored 182 in cash and pretty much won every head-to-head. And like I said, cash top 10% in most of the 50-50s out there. I also won the roundtable arena by 1 point.
Nice.
Thanks to the same Ravens defense. We both had players in the Cowboys game, so it came right down to the end there. I ended up winning, like I said, by the end at 1 point. So it was a close match. I'm playing against Scott this week in the arena. As always, we'll post our lineups after the show, vote for the winner, and you could be in the arena next week.
Nice. Yeah, and going back to that Phillies Steelers game, I actually stacked that game. I had the wrong players. I had Big Ben, which that was probably good, but then I had Juju and Greg Ward. I should have had Chase Claypool and Travis Fulgham. If I would have had them, I would have been good. Who knew?
You would have never had that.
Yeah, I mean the top lineups had him. I don't know how they ended up with him in the lineup, but they had him in a couple lineups.
Well, Claypool maybe because I actually had 4 Claypool lineup in my 150, I was like, because I saw one roster go all the way up right away, right? And I told my brother, what the? And it was Claypool. I'm like, this guy just had he got 49 points, right? 4 touchdowns. But yeah, it happened.
Yeah, it happens. Unfortunately, can't predict it all the time.
Nope.
All right, let's get to the quarterbacks.
Let's talk quarterbacks.
All right, like I mentioned at the top, it's a very interesting week because a lot of the studs that we're used to playing are not on the slate. There's a lot of games that are either teams that are on byes. I think was it the Saints, the Seahawks, the Chargers, and I'm missing one. I forget the other one. Is it Raiders? Yeah, Raiders are on the bye as well. So those 4 teams, obviously. And then you got the Monday night game, the Sunday night game are some pretty marquee players as well. So it's a weird slate. There's a couple top level players, and then you drop off pretty quickly there. But let's go ahead and get to the top level quarterbacks. And Gerson, I'll go to you first.
So before we get into quarterback, I wanted to read you guys this. Not only is it just a weird slate, it's been a weird year overall, right? I mean, we had the first 5 weeks, we're seeing crazy amount of points scored in every game. They're killing the spread. They're killing all the overs. I mean, we already seen a total of 39 games combined for 50 or more points through the first 5 weeks, which is an NFL record. In the 10 previous seasons, an average of 30.1 games have combined for 50 points or more at this point of the season. So I'm telling you guys right now, COVID-19 is I'm not saying it's a hoax, it's real, okay? I'm saying that no training camp, no rookies getting into rep, veterans getting in shape. They're struggling to tackle, they're struggling to cover. So if you feel like games go over in Vegas, put them over. And also, these stacks are going off. So listen to us. What stacks really can go off because a lot of the time they go off.
Definitely.
Okay, quarterback. I got Deshaun Watson. I talked about him last week. I said Bill O'Brien got fired, and the Texans really opened up the playbook. I mean, his offensive coordinator, Tim Kelly, he used play action 29% of the time with Watson on drop back. That's a season high. Before, he only did that 16% of the time. Watson has 11.1 air yards per attempt in week 5. That's also a season high. And now he has 16 passes that travel over 10 yards in week 5, also a season high. So we're looking at, a different Watson, different playbook, different everything, different dynamic. And it's working out. And I'm going to stack this game. This game's going to be, I think it's a 53.5 over under right now.
Yep.
So I definitely love this game. I love Watson in this environment. He is pricey. He's 7,000, I believe, right? Or what is he?
Yeah, he is.
7,000, but he's coming in at 7.5% ownership. While the DVOA shows 11th overall, their DVP is 20th overall. So I'm gonna attack Tennessee, but it does worry me a little bit about the smash mouth football, burn the clock a little bit. But
right.
I'm just hoping they turn it on.
Yeah, I like that. Tim, who you got for your top level quarterbacks?
Yeah, I have my 2 guys at my top are not shockingly the 2 highest players on the slate. It's Lamar Jackson and Aaron Rodgers. Both of these guys are in situations where they're against teams where they're good against the run and not very good against the pass. So both of these quarterbacks are going to have to throw the ball. Both of them have close to a 30-point total. If I had to pick one, I would pick Lamar just because he always gives you that rushing upside. But I love Aaron Rodgers this week too. I think that game, non-biased, could absolutely go, shoot out, go for more than 60 points, and you're definitely going to want some exposure. So, big shocker. I'm recommending my boy Rodgers, but I definitely think you want him in tournaments this week.
Yeah, I'm with you both on Deshaun and Rodgers. I got them on my list as well. My other one is Big Ben. I think the Browns give up the 3rd most points to quarterbacks. I think this game could be a higher scoring game because even I know on the other side, everyone thinks the Steelers defense is so good, but it's actually kind of weak in the secondary. They're giving up a ton of points to receivers, so I think Browns can score on one side, forcing the Steelers to score on the other side. So I think Big Ben at 6.7 at home versus Cleveland is definitely a good play as well. Let's move into these mid-tiers, Tim, and who you got in your mid-tier?
Yeah, probably my favorite guy in the mid-tier is going to be Matt Stafford. When I first looked at this slate, the first thing I thought was we're going to attack the Jaguars. I think pretty much every slate we're going to attack the Jaguars. Like, that defense is just so bad. But pretty much they're the worst, I'm pretty sure, DVOA against the pass. So I want Matthew Stafford this week, definitely in tournaments. He's even a borderline cash game play for me because they just don't have a running game, so they're going to throw the ball, 40-plus times. He's got great stacking options, so I definitely want exposure to Matt Stafford this week.
I love it. Gerson, who you got in your mid-tier?
Kirk Cousins, he done okay. I mean, like, he's doing doing above average, I think. And that came when Jefferson really started turning it on. This is one way you can move off Madison. Ooh, spoiler alert. Just by using Kirk Cousins and stacking him with Jefferson and Thielen. The matchup against the Falcons defense ranked 28th overall in defensive DVOA, 30th in pass DVOA, and has allowed the second most points per game at 32.2. And he's really cheap. I mean, he's a really good value this week. You're going to want to pay up for running backs, maybe tight end. There is one tight end that's specifically cheap, and it's in this game. I'll give you a hint. But, yeah, I love Kirk Cousins this week, or what we like to call him, Captain Kirk.
Captain Kirk. The only quarterback that I have on my list that y'all haven't already mentioned is Gardner Minchu. I think this Detroit Jaguars game could definitely have a sneaky shootout appeal. Minshew is going to have to pass the ball to kind of keep up with Matthew Stafford in that offense, and some good stacking options there. DJ Shark is still questionable. We're not sure if he's in the play or not, but you still got Laviska Shenault there as well. So I do think that Minshew is in play this week at 6.4. And let's see, do we have any that we haven't talked about yet? Gerson, you got one more guy on your list that we hadn't talked about yet. Another Matt.
Hey, before we move on, can I say one thing real quick?
Yep, go ahead.
There were two games I wanted to talk about. I don't talk about Vegas lines as much as I used to, but you guys know I love to watch Vegas lines. This week, the Tampa Bay-Green Bay game opened at 51.5, and it's up to 55. So 3.5, obviously, point movement is pretty significant. And then in the Jacksonville game, you just talked about Jacksonville and Detroit. That game moved 2, started at 52.5 and moved to 54. So Vegas is thinking, okay, even if we open these games over 50, it's still not high enough.
Still not high enough.
So still not high enough. So you definitely are going to want plenty of exposure to these games. I think that they're a little underpriced because the scores are relative the prices are relative to the lower over-unders.
Yeah, I like it. And Gerson, you got Matt Ryan on your list. I want to hear you talk about Matt Ryan because you got to convince me after the last couple weeks that he's had.
I correlate my quarterback with each other. It's like Matt Ryan, Kirk Cousins. In this game, I mean, we're looking at a 54 over-under, and Minnesota's favored by 4. Julio Jones seems to be back, and Julio's one of those guys. I don't think he would really go out there and just be a decoy, especially for a 0-5 team. Are they 0-5 now?
Yeah, they definitely are.
Yeah, 0-5. He I just love Julio. He's probably my favorite player in the NFL currently. But I think Julio back, Hurst, Ridley, OZ can go fuck himself, and then Gage. I mean, I think they're going to try to put on a show. I mean, it's the Minnesota defense. It's the all-rookie defense on the secondary, respect to Harrison Smith. But other than that, I mean, they have improved over the last couple of weeks, but I'm not really convinced that defense is improving that much. And I think Matt Ryan can be very low on that. Right now, he's coming at 5.5% ownership. I like to play contrarian plays. Their DPP shows that they're 19th overall, so that shows me they have some weakness. He is a little bit pricey, 6,600, but would I be shocked if we come out on Sunday and he goes out for 3 touchdowns, 350? No.
Definitely. I love it. All right, so the value tier, let's move down to the value tier, and there's 2 quarterbacks, I think, in the value tier that are pretty much slam dunks, both at 5.9. Tim, I'll go to you first. You pick which one you want to talk about out of those 2 guys.
I'm going to take the one that Gerson did not highlight. And that's, it's the 2 Ryans. It's the battle of the Ryans this week at 5,900. Tannehill and Fitzmagic. So I'll talk about Tannehill. This guy, early in the season, we always talk about that Monday Night Football price hike because the slate comes out before the Monday night. I feel like the Titans kind of got that this week with their Tuesday night game because nobody had really seen them play in 2 weeks. Everybody assumed they would be terrible because they were, not having practice, right? They were meeting in secret, and then they went out and blew out the Bills, right? So I really like the Titans this week. I think they're underpriced because of when the slate came out. So here's the theme, guys. I'm playing Titans this week, and I'm starting at the top with Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah,
I think he's viable for cash and for tournaments.
Yeah, there's a great stack option with him that's super cheap because they couldn't adjust his price, but we'll get to him when we get to the receivers. Gerson, the other Ryan, talk about him a little bit.
You say me?
Yep.
You cut out for a second. It's Ryan Gosling, No,
He's a liability at cornerback. Never forget
yeah.
that.
He's gonna ask you, what do you want? No, it's Ryan Fitzpatrick. Fitzmagic or Fitztragic? Which one are we gonna get this week, right? That's the question. But I think about 2 weeks ago he was a big time value, or the last week, I can't remember what week it was. But anyways, he's been the same stats keep repeating over and over. Now he has finished as a quarterback 1, top 12 in 11 of his last 17 games. So something's working in his favor, and one of the biggest things that's going to work in his favor this week is the matchup. Jets defense ranked 24th overall in defensive DVOA, 31st in pass DVOA, and have allowed the second most points per game at 32.2. So I'm going to play him. He's so cheap. I mean, he's my – okay, so what's his name? 5,900. The ownership's coming at almost 10%. He's the second highest owned quarterback this week. So
wow.
I expect people to stack him. I don't know. I looked at because you guys know I always stack with the run back of a wide receiver or a tight end. The only two guys I really like was Crowder and what's his name, Jeff Smith.
Mm-hmm.
But it's tough. But I'm going to have some limited exposure. I think Ryan Fitzpatrick makes a really excellent cash game quarterback, though.
Yeah, I was just going to ask you, Tim.
Ryan Fitzpatrick has scored more than 20 DraftKings points every week except one, dating back to Week 15 of last year.
Wow.
It's just insane. He has 25 points in every game except Week 1 against New England.
Is he your cash game quarterback, Tim?
Right now, it's Ryan Tannehill, but I don't think you can go wrong with either one of those two guys.
I love Ryan Tannehill this week, too. I mean, I can't highlight all the plays.
I think they're right there, neck and neck. You can go either way.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into the tight ends now. And there's a top tier, basically, and it's basically one player. And Tim, I'll go to you to talk about that one player, basically.
Yeah, it's Mark Andrews. And it's because one of the ways you pick on Philly, especially this year, is with the tight end, right? So I talked about Lamar Jackson earlier with the quarterbacks. He's probably the easiest quarterback to stack because there's only really two guys you stack him with, right? Marquise Brown and Mark Andrews. And because of the Eagles' struggles to cover the tight end, I'm going with Mark Andrews and GPP's heavy this week. I think everybody's going to be trying to pay down to stack 3 running backs, which I think is very viable cash. But for tournaments, you want to pay up at tight end, pay up at defense, pay up where everybody else is not paying up, be different, and have a shot to shoot all the way up when Mark Andrews scores 30 points.
Yep, I love it. And there is one guy, Gerson, he's not really top tier as term is price, but he's been top tier tight end this year. Mr. Jonnu Smith, talk about him a little bit.
I've been hyping up Jonnu Smith since the offseason. I love this guy. Very athletic, very versatile. I mean, they line him up in the backfield when Derrick Henry needs a breather just to try to do trick formation. They don't obviously run with him. I think they actually ran the ball one time with him though, but they do those little scoop off handoff or whatever. I mean, he's getting targeted 7, 5, 8, 7. We want that out of our tight end. We want target, but the best thing is we want touchdowns, right? And he gets touchdowns. He has 5 on the season, and he also gets them in the red zone. I think last week both of those touchdowns were in the red zone. I mean, I was on my Yahoo app. I would get that alert. Oh, Jonnu Smith is in the red zone.
Yep.
Oh, Jonnu Smith got a touchdown. I'm like, oh, what do you know? I'm winning this matchup. Yeah, what's up? But I love Jonnu. I think 5,200, and you can stack him with Ryan Tannehill, who's cheap too. So that's a good stack. And then we'll just keep talking about the rest of the stack later on in the show. But he's getting 21 point, 24 point, 13, 11. I'm gonna have a lot of Jonnu. He's probably my definitely top 3 play this week on tight end.
All right, let's move into the mid-tier now because, Gerson, I know you got 2 more guys listed there at top tier, but I think those guys are more mid-tier to me. So we'll move down into the mid-tier. And, Tim, I'm going to go to you on this one. Who do you got in your mid-tier?
Yeah, this one kind of makes me vomit a little bit, but I'm going to say it anyway, and that's Zach Ertz. he's had a pretty disappointing year this year. It just seems like he's just not on the same page. But the only way you can really move the ball against Baltimore is at the tight end position. So I think if there was ever going to be a week that Zach Ertz got like 10 targets, this would be the week. And his price has come all the way down to $5,000. He's cheaper than Jonnu Smith. He's cheaper than Robert Tonyan. And this is a guy who's been one of the better tight ends in the last few years. So I don't think you'll ever get him this cheap again. This just feels like the week he's going to go off and his price is going to go back to $6K. So I'm all over Zach Ertz this week. If you don't pay up for Andrews, you're looking for a guy in that mid-tier. I really like Zach Ertz. He may give you 2, but he also may give you 20.
Yeah, he's definitely one of those high ceiling guys that we can definitely get some points out of. All right, Gerson, who you got?
On that Zach Ertz, I think Alshon Jeffrey and Deshaun Jackson they played is going to help him open up the field and got more cover.
Yeah.
So I definitely love that Zach Ertz call. My next guy is Eric Ebron. I just don't think Deontay Johnson's out. I don't think he's going to play, right?
I haven't heard. He's still very questionable, I think.
I swear I saw a report that said that he was. Oh, maybe he was out of practice or something.
Yeah, he hasn't practiced yet, but he's still questionable.
Yeah, and usually by Friday, if they don't practice, they usually don't play.
Yep.
That's what I've taken into account over the years. I learned to play DFS guys, but I'm not like rich, so take it how you want. But Eric Ebron, 4,100 versus Cleveland. It looks like we're getting back to that same thing, right? Cleveland sucks against tight end.
Yep.
Feels like we've been doing this for 3, 4 years,
Yep.
5 years. I don't know how long have we been playing DFS, but ever since then, Cleveland has sucked against tight end. I mean, they're 27th overall in DVP, and it's just going to be 4,100, 5% ownership. I really love Ebron this week versus Cleveland. I think in this game environment, with the smash mouth, they know each other very well, right? So they play each other a lot every year, 2 times a year. And Ebron, he freaking has butterfingers. He should have. I mean, he's getting targeted though. So 6, 7, 5, and Big Ben. I don't know if you guys saw, but he was holding his arm last week. So maybe short route instead of long passing route.
Maybe.
Never know. But yeah.
All right, I love it. So the only guy that I got that I want to talk about is Mr. T.J. Hawkinson. We mentioned that that game was going to be possibly a shootout with Jacksonville. Both defenses aren't very good. At 5.3, you could stack him with Stafford and Galladay and have a pretty good stack, and then bring it back with Shenault or T.J. Shark if you want to do that. But yeah, I think Hawkinson's a great play in that game. And then I also have Hayden Hurst at Minnesota. I don't love that play. I think it's definitely more of a tournament play at 4.7. But Minnesota is beatable through the pass. Especially if Julio is out, I think Hurst becomes like a good blanket or safety blanket for Matt Ryan. But I think those are my 2 plays in the mid tier. Is there anybody else we haven't talked about we want to move before we move to the value, guys?
No, I'm good.
All right, let's move into the values. And Gerson, you have we all have this guy on our list. He's one of my favorite players. I've been hyping him up all off season. I'm hoping this is his breakout game. Go ahead and talk about him a little bit.
Irv Smith Jr., guys. He's basically free, 2,500. This guy, I tell you this, Geoff was hyping this guy up in the offseason like no other. At first, the first 3 games, I was like, fuck Geoff. I totally fell for your hyped up machine about Irv Smith Jr. But last week, we saw a little bit of it, right? 5 targets, 4 receptions, 64 yards. Of course, that team didn't have Jamal Adams, so there you go. Weak defense that can't cover, what do you call tight ends?
Tight ends.
And obviously, so Irv Smith Jr., Atlanta, what have we been targeting? Tight end. They've been doing great. At 5% ownership, I'm pretty sure that's going to jump up a lot more. Usually on Saturdays and Sundays, the Sharks try to find ways to, fit those stud. And Irv Smith Jr. is going to be that way. You can fit him in. You can stack him too with Kirk Cousins. So I'm going to be stacking him with Kirk Cousins, 2,500, cheap, very athletic. Geoff knows how athletic he is. This guy's a freak, so I love him.
Yeah, just to keep going on that, like you mentioned, most points get up to tight ends. They have the number 1 Deepak matchup too this week, so they're the most consistent in giving up those points in 28th DVO versus the pass. This is the Irv Smith Jr. week. This is the week that I can finally say yes, he broke out. so I won't look so bad anymore.
Keep in mind though, like his floor is still like 2 points, y'all. Like this is barely better than an Adam Troutman play. Like in my opinion, like the cash play, if you're not down to Irv Smith, is Eric Ebron.
Yeah, I think if you look at his routes run,
dude, like every time we play one of these 2,500 tight ends,
yep.
we know going into it, like they may score 2 points.
Yep, you're absolutely right.
You're doing it because you can pay everywhere else. Like
yeah,
that's the whole point.
If you decide to play him in cash, he needs to get you 5 points. If he gets you 5 points, you're feeling okay about that 2.5 salary. But yeah, you're right. I mean, he's tough to play anywhere else unless he has one of those super breakout games.
I want to give a quick shout-out to the unofficial fourth member of the podcast, Jason Aguirre, on the next play here, where he called him, I believe, Trey Boo-Boo instead of Trey Burton at 3,100. Again, this is not a play that feels good because he's basically splitting snaps with Jack Doyle. But at this point, like, Trey Burton and Mo Alley Cox are really who they're actually targeting in the pass game. And Mo Alley Cox is not going to play, right? So I would argue that Trey Burton has a slightly higher floor than Irv Smith, but he's also 600 more, right? But he saves you 1,000 over Eric Ebron. So I think that's probably one of the more interesting plays this week because, again, he's got a floor of 2, but he actually plays snaps, gets targets, and he's 3,100.
I'm gonna mention one more guy like that in that sort of he can get you a 0, and that's Mr. James O'Shaughnessy at 3K versus Detroit. Yeah, only if Tyler Eifert is ruled out. He had a stinger last week. He's still questionable. If Eifert's in, forget about it. But if Eifert is out, why not? Let's play Mr. O'Shaughnessy.
Trey Burton coming out as my number 1 value tight end right now, based on projection and value. So that's kind of, yeah. Guys, just make sure you go back to the last 10 minutes and just erase everything we said out of your memory. All right, next.
All right, guys, quick commercial break. When we come back, we'll talk running backs and wide receivers. So hold tight. What's up, everyone? Geoff Lambert here, and I want to tell you about Society Socks. Is your sock drawer kind of boring? I know mine is. Society Socks is a men's sock subscription company that sends 2 pairs of exclusively designed socks to your door every month. These socks are made of a warm, soft, and comfortable blend of combed cotton, guaranteed to make your feet feel and look great. At the office or the bar, your socks are sure to be a hit. You might be wondering, why are they called Society Socks? Well, that's the best part. Socks are one of the most needed and least donated items at homeless shelters. Society Socks aims to change that. With every pair of socks purchased, another pair of socks is donated to homeless shelters. So on top of receiving awesome socks every month and amping up your sock drawer, you are actively making a positive change in society. With 2 surprise pairs of socks arriving at your door every month, you'll begin to grow an impressive sock collection. Visit mysocietySocks.com/armchair and enter our promo code ARMCHAIR to get 50% off your first subscription. Put an end to boring socks and subscribe today. Again, that's mysocietysocks.com/armchair and use promo code ARMCHAIR. All right, guys, welcome back. We just talked tight ends, and now we're moving into the money positions. And again, like I mentioned, with the quarterbacks in the beginning of the show, it's tough because a lot of the big names, the Zekes and the Alvin Kamaras aren't on this slate. So we got to dig deep to find these guys. So, Gerson, I'm going to go to you first. Give us one of your elite running backs.
And next week, it'll be the Le'Veon Bell. Derrick Henry, the big guy. I mean, this guy's stiff arm people like.
Big go.
It fucking wants to take their soul away. he just looked like Thanos out there. Bam, dude. He had his bye week already, and Derrick Henry still ranked second in 101 carries. So he's at 101 on the season. Most of us would say that he's off to a slow start, right? I mean, yeah, I agree, but that's still a top 10 running back right there in points per game this season. He's a top value running back. DVOA matchup 26 overall. DVP 27. And I mean, he's gonna be shocked. We're scared, right? Yeah, I'm pretty frightened. But I think people are gonna like when they're making the lineup, they're gonna think what happened 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, right? Like week 2, where he just got like I think like 11 points or something like that. I can't. Let me click on him real quick. But he got 7,300 to 8.40 against Jacksonville Jaguars. I mean, that's the perfect game we described. We got 25 carries, 84 yards, 0 touchdown, 0 reception. That's the Derrick Henry game. That's kind of like the floor or the shit floor, I guess it's called.
I mean, last year against the Texans tells the whole story, right? He had 2 games against the Texans last year. He had 21 for 86, ended with 8.6 points. Had 32 for 211, ended with 42 points. Right? So he could get you 8, but he could get you 40.
Yeah.
Like,
I mean,
that's Derrick Henry this week.
You really have to, think very hard if you're going to play him or not. I'm going to play him because I'm a GPP player, and I'm not afraid of anything. I'm only afraid if Geoff is out there being my quarterback or something, but nothing else. But Derrick Henry either smash or you're going to be passing that bong hoping to get high that night. I don't know.
All right, Tim.
I don't know why I didn't play Derrick Henry. Now, let me tell you, all right, so this is a little pull back the curtain moment. Before, y'all know I'm in Vegas right now. I was just downstairs at the bar at the MGM with a bunch of Astros fans, including all my buddies from back in Houston, watching the 9th inning of that Astros game. And I looked at my buddy and I said, do we play the Titans this week? And he looked at me and he says, you play Derrick Henry. Right? This is a guy who knows nothing about daily fantasy, who knows about football, who loves his Texans, and he said play Derrick Henry, okay?
There you
so
go.
If you don't play Derrick Henry in cash, just know he could score 40 on you.
Yeah.
But if you're not going to play Derrick Henry in cash, I think there's only 2 other guys you're playing, and it's Madison or Mike Jones, a.k.a. Mike Davis, right?
Yeah.
Like if you want to talk about the poster child for the running backs don't matter movement, it's Alexander Madison, right? Because they're going to plug this guy in, give him the exact same usage I expect that Dalvin Cook got. No team is more run-heavy and a neutral game script than the Minnesota Vikings. Like, he was so heavily jammed in that Tuesday to Sunday slate that at 6,100 that DraftKings was like, oh, no, we fucked up. We got to raise his price up to 7,200 or everybody's going to own this guy, right? Like, DraftKings doesn't usually admit that they fucked up. DraftKings knew they fucked up because if he was 6,100, he would be 50% owned, if not more. But I think at 7,200, he's still in play.
I thought you were going to say Mike Davis, that running back don't matter, because he's showing it too, that running back doesn't matter, right?
He doesn't. He absolutely. He cut by 6 teams, and he's now like 90% CMC light, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's the same. Like, it's insane. I'm playing Mike Davis all over this week. I'm playing Alexander, and I'm playing Derrick Henry. I don't think in cash you can fit all 3, but I think in tournaments, if you don't have exposure to all 3, you're not doing it right.
Oh, you can fit him if you put Irv Smith Jr. at tight
You
end.
can. You can fit all 3 with Irv Smith. Yeah. Especially if you sneak preview later. If you punt with the Bengals and Irv Smith.
You know it's a rough week when Madison and Mike Davis are going to be the chalk, elite running backs this week. It's crazy to think about.
You imagine if you win the $1 million? Like, I'm a running back for Mike Davis, David Montgomery, and what's his name? That Madison guy. I don't know. There were 2 backups, and then David Montgomery, like, he sucked last year. But hey, honey, we won $1 million, What do you want to do?
Speaking of guys that could win you $1 million this year, can we talk about James Robinson for a moment? Because, like, the other day, a buddy of mine, did a top 5 list, and I'm sure a lot of people have, a top 5 offensive rookies this year, and it's 4 first-round picks and then undrafted free agent
James Robinson.
Right? It's insane what this guy is doing, but he's getting volume every week. And this week he gets to play a home matchup, maybe in the rain, against the Detroit Lions. Like, that week 3 against Miami where he scored 30 points, that could be again this week. So I think those top 3 guys we just talked about are on a different tier. But if there's one guy that's almost on that tier, it's James Robinson.
I like it. All right, y'all took all of the elite guys, so I'm going to move down into the mid tiers, and the only guy I wanted to talk about, I'm going to pick the guy that no one really has on their list. For obvious reasons, he's only had one good game all year, but Mr. Joe Mixon going against the Colts at 6.3. The only thing I'm going to say about Joe Mixon is he is getting the workload. He had 30 touches last week. He had 32 opportunities, if you include targets. I know it's a tough matchup, but it's Joe Mixon. He's an elite running back at 6.3. He's going to be super low owned. Gerson, I don't know if you got his ownership over there, but I'm assuming he's probably going to be like less than 1% owned right now. And he's my tournament play of the week, Mr. Joe Mixon in a tough matchup.
Joe Mixon. Sorry, I was pouring my beer when you said that. Oh, he's actually going to be owned 10%, bro.
Wow.
Yeah.
I think is Darius Leonard still out?
Darius Leonard?
Yeah, the middle linebacker for
the
the
Colts?
Indianapolis Colts.
I'm not sure, actually. I have to look that up.
I'm looking it up right now. Keep going, though.
Because if he's out, and then there was another, I can't remember the freaking name. I just always hear on podcasts, like, you guys ever listen to podcasts, they're like, do-do-do-do-do-do, and then you're like, oh,
He's
yeah.
doubtful.
So yeah.
Okay, so if he's out, that's probably going to make Joe Mixon a good play at 6,200. Very contrarian, though, so I like that call, Geoff, for sure. And he projected at 17, almost 18 points for me.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's the top 6 projected right now. So definitely a good call right there.
Nice. All right, Tim, give me one of your mid-tier guys.
Yeah, I'm going to pay $200 more and play the guy on the other side of that matchup. Gerson, you said you wanted to wait for the reason why I'm playing Jonathan Taylor. This is it, man. Is that this is the week, okay? If you're going to play Jonathan Taylor, this is the week. Because Cincy they're just going to get run all over this week. Their best run stuffer is out. This is the week where they're going to commit to Jonathan Taylor because they know they can win this game without ever having to throw the ball. Like, as bad as Cincinnati's defense is, they're actually sneaky good against the pass, right? So going into this, Indianapolis is going to game plan to run the ball. And as of right now, I haven't checked on it. I'm looking at it right now. Jordan Wilkins is questionable. He was DNP for the last 2 days. So there's a good chance that he's going to see even more volume than he's seeing already, which I think at 6,400 is still probably enough to where I could play him, right? If Wilkins is out, then I think he definitely sees approaching 20 carries against a soft Cincinnati defense at 6,400. Like, I think he's a GPP play. I would not play him in cash, but if he scored 24, 25 DraftKings points at 6,400, I would not be shocked at all this week.
I like it. And real quick, we had a question in the chat room, and I'm going to answer it, then I'm going to open it up to you two as well. But Scott wants to know, do we believe it's a negative correlation to play a quarterback and a running back in cash? Example, Tannehill and Henry. I think Tannehill and Henry, yes. Because I think that's going to be – but I think if you have someone that's going to be a pass catcher, like you have Mike Davis, obviously catching passes, I think he's definitely viable. Because he's game script, independent basically. He could, be there if they're down. He could be there if they're up. So that's my call. What's your call on that, Gerson? Are you agreeing with me, or do you feel differently?
Well, myself in cash game, I don't care about correlation because I want point. I want floor and I want point. Because I think there's 3 logical plays this week, like Madison, Smith Jr. I'm just saying. A lot of people are going to disagree that he's not a cash game play, but me in cash game, I'll punt tight end. I don't give a shit about that.
I do every time. That's my cash game's formula is to punt tight end. I went against it last week and I played Kittle and it screwed me. So no more. I'm going back to punting tight end.
That's what happened for being biased there, Geoff.
Honestly, you make a good point while we're talking about it real quick. I think in years past, you paid for tight end and you punted defense. I think this year, even with the crazy high scoring, I think you punt tight end and you pay up for defense. Because I think the difference between the top defenses and the bottom defenses is higher than it's ever been.
Yeah, like I said earlier on, we're getting teams that can score like 30 points per game, It's crazy. But to me, just to here's a perfect example, just to break down that question. This week we have Adam Thielen, Smith Jr., and Madison, right? I put a cash lineup earlier on in my chat row, our chat row. Sorry. And it had those 3 players. And I said, don't at me because I know it has negative correlation. But the thing is, it allowed me to pay up for all these other wide receivers. I can't name the whole roster. Sorry, guys. DraftKings will take away
Oh yeah, yeah. You can't give out rosters.
But it just doesn't matter. I really don't think it matters too much. Obviously, I don't think I would want to do Derrick Henry and Tannehill because he has no passing catch upside. But if you were to do Madison and Kirk Cousins, sure, why not?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think Geoff had a great example with Mike Davis. I think that was really good because he's getting so much pass game volume. There's a few running backs, but I agree. Derrick Henry might be the poster child for
not doing it.
But for a tournament. Yeah.
Yep.
This guy does not get enough usage in the passing game to stack with the quarterback.
God, the more we talk about Henry, the more I'm just like, no, I don't want to play you.
Yeah.
There's one guy I wanted to mention before I think we're going to move on to wide receiver. David Montgomery, he's gone to workload. Ever since Tariq Cohen got hurt, he has played 83% of the Bears snap over the last 2 weeks. It's the highest rate among all running backs in that span. He has seen 17% of the Bears target share without Cohen week 4 and 5. In the 3 previous games before that, he only saw 8% of the team targets. So his targets are up, his snaps are up. DVOA matchups 26 overall, DVP 27. Second best value of the slate, 18% ownership right now. I'm pretty sure that might go higher, and he's only 5.8.
Yeah.
We always do.
Geoff, tell me about the Deepak. That's all I want to know. Does he fit the Deepak again this week?
Yes, he does, actually. Because, last week I called Todd Gurley against the Carolina Panthers, and that panned out pretty well. So they actually give up second most points to running backs, and they're the 9th best Deepak matchup for running backs. So Carolina definitely is not good versus the running backs. Give me all David Montgomery I can get.
I was actually shocked how much they're using him in the passing game. Like last week I was watching that game, and Nick Foles pretty much went, is my first read open? No. Is my second read open? No. Let me check it down. So to see David Montgomery used that way is a little bit different for me.
I really don't think he's a bad pass catcher either. I mean,
no.
He's a really, he has soft hands. I mean, that sounds kind of, yeah.
I don't know that he has like that gear that Tariq Cohen has where he can get to the outside, but he'll catch the ball and he won't just fall down. Like he'll actually move the ball upfield.
Didn't he have like a 30-yard reception touchdown over the shoulder, like down the stream? I think he did. It was the Tampa Bay game when they played them.
He had
a 30-yard catch in that game, and he had a 45-yard catch earlier in this year. So I mean, like you said, like he's a viable pass catcher.
There is one more player that I would be remiss if we didn't mention. He's been mentioned in the chat a couple of times. We all have him on our list. Who wants to take the Myles Gaskins guy?
You want to do it?
Tim, I'm going to give this one to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's just attack the Jets, right? Like that's the basic. If you want to figure out the theme of daily fantasy, right? It's just play the Jets. They're 32nd DVOA against the run, right? So not only are they home, they're favorites. It could end up being a weather game, and like they're terrible against the run. So everything lines up for Myles Gaskin. He's getting actually the usage. They're giving, him enough touches to where he's very viable at 5,400.
Yeah.
I mean, last week he scored 20 points. He got a touchdown. But even if you take that touchdown away, he still scores, 14 points? And at 5,400, like, he gives you a $400 savings over David Montgomery, and that $400 could be valuable this week. I think when me and Scott did our arena, I knew Gaskin was going to be hotly contested because every week you're looking for, where can I save a few extra 100 to be able to fit in that extra guy?
Yep.
And this week you're looking at Montgomery versus Gaskin being like, I think that they're probably pretty close.
Yep.
I like Gaskin. I'm like, I was worried. Like, I was looking at his DVOA and stuff, and I'm like, what? But then I look at the DVP, 28th overall. I was like, wow, okay. But then I looked at Myles Gaskin's workload over the last couple of weeks. 16, 5 targets, 4 targets, 5 targets, 7 targets. I'm like, damn, this guy's just get. And then I see that Jordan Howard was inactive.
Yep, he was a healthy scratch.
And they didn't sign Le'Veon Bell. I mean, maybe they didn't win the winning bid or whatnot. But maybe they're happy with
that.
I
mean, let's be honest. He wants a ring. Like, that's what it really comes down to. He thought the Chiefs were the best shot at a ring.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that gave me, like, where I know that the Dolphins have faith in Myles Gaskin is in that game against the Jaguars. He got 22 carries and 5 targets. Like 27 touches is elite at 5,400. So it's a situation where I'm not going to tell you he's going to get 27 touches again, but to get anywhere near 20 touches at 5,400 is elite. I think you have to consider him in both cash and GPP.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Geoff, you want to talk about that guy? You want to talk about that guy that we haven't talked about? You have like a quote mark on him?
Yeah.
Which guy are we talking about?
It rhymed with JoJo.
Oh, yeah. I don't have one on him. That's Tim. Tim's got him around us. So, Tim, why don't you talk about him?
It really is. I mean, I think it's pretty straightforward. Like, last week, Leonard Fournette was active, but they did not use him. He was limited all week. He may play again, but I don't know if they're going to use him. And I'll be honest, like, the way you attack the Packers is with the running game. And a couple weeks ago, I played Rojo and Cash. Everybody thought I was crazy, and it worked out.
Yep.
I'm not saying play Rojo and Cash this week because he's priced up at $6K. But if we get the word that Fournette is going to be limited or if he's out, then he's definitely viable at $6K because the Packers will give you 4 yards per carry, right? And if he gets 20 carries, then he's looking at 80 yards without any touchdowns. And they use him in the passing game as well. So I'm a little bit lower on Rojo, but I think he's definitely viable, especially if we know Fournette's going to be limited.
And the thing is, he's coming in at 6% ownership. And the other thing is, we've seen over the years, it used to be like, Tampa Bay did it like a running back by committee. They're not doing it very much this year.
Nope, not at all.
17 touches through the run game. Well, 17 rushes, 5 targets. That's 23 opportunities right there.
Yep.
I mean, I don't think they're really – Tom Brady, he just wants one running back out there and let's move the offense go.
Yep.
But
I would say a lot of coaches will give you bullshit about, oh, this guy's going to be our starter. This guy's our main guy. But so far, Bruce Arians saying that Ronald Jones was their main guy has kind of
panned out.
True.
Yep, that's true.
So it's the one game Fournette kind of bust out, but every other game it's been Rojo.
Yep. All right, guys, we spent way too much time on running back. We're going to have no time for receiver, but I just want to mention one quick note that I had on my last guy here. Phillip Lindsey at 4.3, his price is super cheap, and we know Melvin Gordon's had a bad week. He had a DUI. He got sent home from practice today because he was sick with non-COVID symptoms. Yeah,
he was hungover.
Yeah. So Phillip Lindsey, I think, is a good play at 4.3. Even if Melvin Gordon plays, he's probably still a viable play. But if Gordon's out for whatever reason, then Lindsey's definitely a smash play for me. All right, let's move into the receivers now. And we'll go to you first, Tim, and talk about your boy at the top there.
I am, yeah. It's Devante Adams. I mean, he got into full practice this week. Everything seems to indicate that he's good to go. As I said at the top of the show, you want to attack Tampa Bay through the air. I like him in Rodgers stacks. I don't know if he's cash viable because they priced him up to $8K. They knew coming back that in his first game he could be targeted. So I think it's tough to get to him in cash. But I think in tournaments you definitely want to have exposure because I don't know if he can score 40 points like he did in week 1, but he's got 30-point upside any week he's out there, 10-plus targets. I mean, this is a guy that at 8K is about as safe as you can get. But like I said, it's they're going to double him, but I don't think it matters. He's going to get his targets. He's going to, especially in the red zone. That's one of the reasons you're paying for him because they're going to find ways to get him the ball in the red zone. So I wouldn't be shocked if he gets 2, 3, 4 red zone targets. Whether or not he gets that touchdown, if he does, right, you're dancing. But if he doesn't, I think he can still get there on volume even at 8K.
I love it. And Gerson, you got 2 guys on your list that are highlighted. Go ahead and talk about both those guys.
Calvin Ridley facing Minnesota, he's facing Cameron Dantzler, one of the worst cornerbacks in the league. Matchup rating is great at 18.16 per player profiler. I love this game. I'm going to be targeting this environment. And the other guys on the other side named Adam Thielen. Adam Thielen has a pretty good matchup too. AJ Terrell, the rookie. I think rookie wide receivers always struggle against great route runners, and Adam Thielen is a very good route runner. I think he's going to get very good separation versus him. Again, I'm targeting this game a lot. They're both 7.3, 7.8. Correlate them, stack them. It's going to be hard for you to pay up for both of them. So maybe have Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, and then not Kirk Cousins. Yeah, Kirk Cousins, Adam Thielen, Calvin Ridley, and then maybe Irv Smith Jr.
Yeah.
You know, to go cheap, but it's just you're gonna have to find a way to get creative. But I love both of those guys, and they're probably my top play. I love that call by Tim though about Devante Adams. I think people are gonna forget about him since he hasn't played for like 3 weeks now.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he's most expensive on the slate too. So only guy on my list.
I know Gerson talked about Ridley and Thielen, but I want to talk about one thing real quick from a strategy standpoint, and it's the idea of secondary stacks, right? We always talk about you got to have your primary stack where you have your quarterback, your pass catcher, a bring back on the other side, but you also want to have secondary stacks where there are two guys, usually from a different game, where you're going to plug into multiple of your lineups, and if they hit, they kind of go off, and then all of your lineups go up, right? So I think there are two big secondary stacks at receiver this week. And the one for pay up is definitely Ridley and Thielen, because both of those guys have 30-plus point upside. And if you can create a lineup like we talked about earlier, spoiler alert, with Fitz or with Tannehill, where you pay down at quarterback, maybe you pay down at some of your other wide receiver positions, but you can fit in a secondary stack where you pay up, I think that'll give you a lot of leverage in tournaments.
Yeah.
I love it. All right, in the effort of time here, I'm just going to mention the guy that I got real quick, Allen Robinson. Going up against Carolina, we already mentioned how bad their defense is. Over the last 3 weeks, Robinson's got 16 targets, 10 targets, 13 targets. So he's getting tons of targets. He's going to get more targets in this game as well. So Al Robinson at, 7,000? He's definitely a good play for Carolina. Gerson also had Kenny Galladay in there. Obviously, Galladay is also a target monster. We mentioned Matthew Stafford already. It's a good stack option with Kenny Galladay. Let's move down into the mid-tiers now, and you got a guy in your mid-tiers, Tim, that's been really good all year, surprisingly so.
He has been, and that's Robbie Anderson. I mean, if you would have told me Robbie Anderson was a cash game wide receiver at the beginning of the year, I would have told you were crazy.
Yep.
But this guy's getting volume every week. DJ Moore last week scored on kind of a lucky touchdown, which is why he got there in points. But Robbie Anderson was the volume monster, right? That's the guy you're chasing in volume. I love Kenny Galladay. I think he's a great play at 6,200. But I think Robbie Anderson is going to go overlooked. Yes, Chicago has a pretty good pass defense, but with the amount of volume he's getting, he could easily get there, and I don't think he'll be nearly as owned as he should be.
And Gerson, you have maybe, at least in my personal opinion, the top value receiver on the entire slate, Mr. AJB. Talk about him.
You mean AJ Brown?
Yes,
Yeah.
AJ Brown.
Okay. I'm like, did you get a different nickname or what? Yeah, AJ Brown. I think this is I guess we used to call it the Monday Night Football salary, not change, but now we're gonna call it the Tuesday Night Football and salary didn't change. He's 5.6K, guys. I mean, last year we were playing him at 6,500, 6,200, 5.6K. He is the chalk. He's at 18% right now. Well, actually, there's four. Okay, we already mentioned most of those guys: Thielen, Galladay, Adam, and Terry McLaurin. But AJ Brown, I mean, he has a pretty decent matchup, and we're targeting this game like we talked about Deshaun Watson and Ryan Tannehill, right? This is a great way to get that correlation with Will Fuller, AJ Brown, Jonnu Smith, bring it back with Tannehill. Oh, shit, I think I just said my stack. My bad.
That was mine. Yeah. But seriously, though, I mean, what he's talking about, like last week, I think we're going to talk about Cooks here in a minute, but I think last week was a bit of an anomaly with Brandon Cooks. I think Deshaun Watson even came out and said, we knew going into that the Vikings took him out of the game, so we were going to try and get him targets early. I don't think that's how it's going to be this week. I think it's going to go back to Will Fuller seeing his usual volume. So when I talked about earlier, there are two secondary stacks I love. One was Ridley and Thielen. The second one is A.J. Brown and Will Fuller.
Yeah.
Love it. Just the guy that I want to mention real quick. On AJB, the only thing I will say, I'll punt the brakes just a little bit on him. I do love him, 5.6. He's got a terrible matchup. I think Bradley Roby this year has been a lockdown follow corner, so I think it's a bad matchup for him, but I still think at that 5.6 price point, he's still viable. If he was in the 7,000 range, I'd probably take more pause to it, but at 5.6, definitely viable for sure. The guy I got, and as long as he's in, he's still questionable, but Mr. Odell Beckham Jr., Like I said earlier, the Steelers, have a perceived great defense, and they do. They get a ton of pressure on the quarterback, but the thing that they struggle at with is the pass defense. They 6th most points allowed to wide receivers. They got the 8th best DPOC matchup. They are 17th DVOA versus the pass, and they are first versus the run. So they're going to basically shut down that Cleveland run attack, and I think OBJ benefits from that at 6.4. So I think he'll be a nice contrarian play as well. He probably won't be very highly owned.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, Geoff, I know we're short on time, but I want to ask Gerson something because he's got Terry McLaurin on his list. So I actually am kind of like PFF and a lot of people are really grading James Bradberry high this year. It used to be when he was in the NFC South, he would get picked on, right? But now that he's on the Giants, he looks like a lockdown corner. So are you worried about James Bradberry when you play Terry McLaurin? Because I have to make him both in DFS and in season long if I want to decide if I want to play him this week.
I mean, I think Terry McLaurin's a bigger play because of his salary. He's 5,700.
Right.
5,700. I mean, the DVP shows 21st overall, but of course we're not going to look at that when we do wide receivers because we look at cornerback to wide receiver matchup.
Yep.
While James Bradberry, I mean, he's a good corner. Like, honestly, I think the New York Giants defense is very underrated. They've been pretty good this year, except for if it wasn't for them having a quarterback named Daniel Jones.
Yeah.
Right.
I think they'd probably be the best team in the division.
I agree.
But Terry McLaurin, he's 5,700. He's a target whore. 7, 14, 8, 10, 7. I'm going to expect him in this game environment to get a lot of targets too. So 5,700 for a wide receiver that's the main guy. And what's his name? Kyle Allen. He looks like he's going to start. Even if he doesn't,
his target share at 5,700 is insane.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yes.
But he's only that price because of that.
And the other thing is, Tim, ownership.
Right.
We always talk about ownership. His ownership right now is at almost 20%. That's the only 3 guys ahead of him are Devante Adams, Kenny Golladay, and Adam Thielen.
Nice.
And all 3 have better matchups, in my opinion.
Yeah.
All right, let's move into the value tier. And Tim, I'm gonna go to you. You got a bunch of guys, as do I, but name a few of your guys.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about A.J. Brown, who's arguably the best value on the slate. I mean, depending on how you look at it, just from a medium projection. But a huge value opened up today, and that's Chase Claypool. Obviously, if you played him last week, right, you probably won big money. And we know that his volume, his snap percentage is directly tied to that of Deontay Johnson, right? So we know Deontay Johnson was ruled out today. I expected 3 wide sets. They're going to roll Juju, Claypool, and James Washington. We saw how they used him last week, not just around the end zone, but all the way down the field. At 5,200, he's probably still too cheap. So he's probably going to be highly owned in both cash and GPP.
I love it. Gerson, your guy is on my list as well, but go ahead and talk about Mr. Thou Shall Not Pass.
Thou shall not pass?
That's my nickname for him. Thou shall not pass. Laviscus Chanel.
Oh my God. Laviscus Chanel. I mean, this guy's he's a freak athlete too. I mean, I loved him coming out of college. I was high on him. I think I had him top 14 in rankings in my rookie dynasty ranking. He's a gadget player, right? Like, he can run the ball. He can catch the ball. Obviously, he can catch the ball. But DJ Shark, I don't think he's going to play. I really don't. That he's been dealing with that ankle injury. He dealt with the same injury last year. But here's the thing. Now, while I have him as a good value play, but Laviscus Chenault didn't practice on Wednesday. I don't know what his latest update is, but I think he's trending toward playing, and he's getting points. He's gotten double-digit points in all his matchup but one, the Miami matchup. But, I mean, usage means everything to me. He got 8 targets for 7 receptions, 79 yards last week. And Shark is out. I'm going to have a lot of Laviscus Chenault. And I believe his projection right now is at 14 points. I mean, that's almost 3 times value. I mean, if Shark is out, that is going to go higher too. So
yeah, agreed.
I love me Laviscus Chenault. And if he gets some rushing attempts, man, I don't think he will because they've seen how good James Robinson is. So, yeah. But that Gardner Minchu stack, like Geoff was, or the play that he was saying, Gardner Minchu maybe stacking with Laviscus Chenault and then bring him back, with Galladay.
Yep, definitely
They
can't
could
go wrong.
totally use him on one of those, like, jet sweep type plays near the goal line.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
They did that earlier in the season.
Yeah.
They used him on a jet
That's what he's
sweep.
suited for, man.
Yep,
Yeah,
agreed.
I mean, go look at his highlight on YouTube, and you'll be like, I see what they're saying.
Right. I want to talk about one guy real quick, and that's T. Higgins. I think earlier in the year, this guy was not getting enough respect from the Bengals offense, and they realized that A.J. Green was kind of dust, and then they started giving this guy more snaps, right? So 2 of the last 3 weeks, this guy's played the most snaps of anybody on the Bengals, right? So now keep in mind, right, the Bengals are not a good team. Joe Burrow's a rookie, but these are 2 rookies, but I think they've had a little bit of a connection over the last couple of weeks, and he's only 4,700. We expect the Bengals to be behind in this game, to be throwing. I like this play even more before Claypool became a better value at 5,200, but I don't think anybody's going to own T. Higgins, and I think he has 20-point upside. I really do in this matchup because of how I expect him to be behind and how they're going to have to throw. So I think he's 4,700.
Holy crap, yeah. He's definitely a good play.
Yeah, so I agree. I said I like him less than I did before Chase Claypool became a play, but I still think he's in play at 4,700.
All right, I got one guy on my list that we hadn't talked about yet. And so 2 weeks ago, I proclaimed this guy to have his breakout week, and then Cam Newton proceeded to go get COVID. So we had a backup quarterback throwing the ball, so he didn't have a great game. And then I was ready to call it again last week, and then their game got postponed to this week. So this week is the N'Keal Harry week. I do think that he finally gets his breakout. It's going to happen. The Broncos are 18th DVOA versus the pass. Give the 5th most points to wide receivers and the 3rd best DPOC matchup. Henry, if he doesn't do it this week, I'm giving up on him. This is the last week for him. So Henry, please do me good at 4.5.
I know we're running late, but can we talk about real quick how the Patriots have absolutely owned this whole COVID thing? And how their cornerback and their star cornerback both got COVID, and they worked out the schedule to where they were able to push their bye week back and only have to start 1 game with Brian Hoyer.
Yeah.
If anybody was going to figure out a way to beat the COVID in this season, it's Bill Belichick.
Yep,
right?
I agree. I think it was almost like he did that on purpose just to get him so he can get them all back. So I agree.
So, you said Harry, right?
Yeah, N'Keal Harry.
Okay, you were saying Henry like twice, so I was like, wait, what?
You did say Henry, yeah.
Did I say Henry? No, it's N'Keal Harry.
I mean, I like Bird on the other side. I think Bird is, just real quick, I think Bird is a viable punt at 3,500 because he's playing so many snaps. And then Jeff Smith with my sick call last week, he didn't really pan out for me, but I think, again, he's viable this week. He did not get a price hike. He's still $3K. So if you need somebody that's bare minimum salary, I think he's still in play.
That was a great call, though. He got 10 targets. I mean,
yeah,
he got 11
targets.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a great call.
4 or 5 of them were like 10 feet above his head because it's Joe Flacco, you know?
Yeah.
But like, at least 6 or 7 of them were like legitimate targets.
Yeah.
Just a disclaimer, guys. Geoff is still sleeping with Jameis Winston picture every night. N'Keal Harry is in his arm right here with like a little teddy bear.
I got N'Keal Harry on one side, Irv Smith Jr. on the other side because I was pumping them all summer. They got to do something for me this year. All right, guys, let's move into the defense. Let's move down into defense, and I realized that I haven't pushed my drops all night long, so I'm gonna hit the defensive drop just for the hell of it.
Defense, 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 defense.
Yeah, I literally got straight off of work. I mean, you can see I'm still wearing my Home Depot uniform right here. I got straight from work, straight to the studio, and started recording, so I'm a little out of sync. But
since we're at the end of the show now, if you're still listening, I'll pull back the curtain a little bit. The reason I was having so much fun on the podcast earlier, if you were watching, is because one of my buddies tried marijuana, tried THC for the first time tonight, okay? This is a guy who's the most straight-edge guy I've met in my entire life. Like, I'm not going to get his name out because I don't snitch on people, but I stopped by the dispensary on the way, and he said, pick me up one of those cookies, and I picked him up a cookie, and he was sitting here and talking about how great his hair feels when he gets out of the shower. So we've officially converted him. It is
nice.
Great. This Vegas trip is already worth it. But while we're talking about defense, I'm going to once again advise you what I told you to do last week, and that's pay up for defense, find the money. There are 2 defenses, I think, that are very viable for cash. Gerson is going to talk about the other ones. I'm going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Cleveland Browns are banged up. They are going in a away game, I believe, to Pittsburgh. And I think Pittsburgh is going to be the defense that everybody expected them to be last week. They're going to blitz Baker Mayfield all day long, and they're going to find a way to get a turnover and maybe get a touchdown. And so if there's any way, especially in tournaments, you can pay up, I think my pay-up defense this week is the Pittsburgh Steelers.
All right, love it. Gerson, who you got for your defense?
The Colts defense. Colts defense has been elite this year. Shout out to Geoff. He had them very high on the ranking when we first started the season on Fantasy Pros.
I got one right.
Hey, man, you've done good, man. You're kicking ass in rankings, man. You're kicking my ass, that's for sure. But the Colts defense, they force turnovers, man. This defense just, I don't know, like they start out slow, but then like by halftime, after halftime, I don't know what the coaches say to them, but either pull your head out of your ass and play defense or something. But they get sacks, they get interceptions. They almost have 3, 6, 7, 9 interceptions so far in the season. I mean, they get defensive touchdowns. They have 3 of them. They're facing Joe Burrow. I mean, Joe Burrow is a good quarterback, don't get me wrong, but here's the problem. That offensive line is abysmal.
Yep.
And that's what's getting Joe Burrow killed. So I definitely like the Colts defense. Right now, I think they're favored right now by, 7? Almost a touchdown.
Sounds right.
So, yeah, I definitely like Indianapolis Colts defense. It sounds so weird that we're, like, now trying to say pay up for defense when I've been against paying up for defense for so long.
Yeah. I do have a punt defense.
The gap is larger than it's ever been. Like a lower-end defense is going to give you 3 or 4 points, whereas an upper-end defense could get you 20.
Yeah, agreed.
It's kind of like where the Patriots defense were last year, where you needed some weeks the Patriots defense to win you money.
Yep.
I just real quick a shout out in the chat. Brian pretty much every week recommends that you play the football team defense, the Washington defense. But I'm going to go ahead and co-sign on that this week because they have one of the best adjusted sack rates in the league this year because their defensive line is so strong and the Giants' offensive line is so weak. I expect them to be able to put heavy pressure on Daniel Jones. So, I think that's a great call from Brian in the chat.
Yeah, I like it. All right, so my defense, after we just told you to pay up for defense, I'm telling you to pay down at defense. I picked the Giants last week, and they came out and had a pick 6 because of Dak Prescott and their turnover issue. Well, this week we have the Bengals and Mr. Walking Interception himself, Phillip Rivers. He's got 5 picks in 5 games, turns the ball over quite a bit. At $2,100, the Bengals don't need much to hit their value. If they can get just a couple interceptions, then they're good to go. It'll be tough. Trust me, it'll be tough. The other thing that I think has going for them as well is the Colts are a team that likes to play defense and run the ball. So it will be a lower scoring game, so they won't get blown out. So I do think that the Bengals can get 1 or 2 picks off of Phillip Rivers.
Yeah, they have Phillip Rivers. Hey, can you guys have your beers?
Yeah.
I drank both mine. I'm on water now.
Okay, well, put up your drinks. Dak, I hope you come back healthy, stronger than ever.
For sure.
Look, we don't want any injury on anyone, but Dak, you're a great guy. Cheers.
Good stuff.
No, I'm very interested to see how my brother from another mother, Andy Dalton, plays this week. I had a couple people in the airport. No bullshit. This is not a fake news. This is true. I had a dude stop me in the airport and ask me if I was going to be back on time for the game on Sunday. And then I had another buddy of mine message me and also say, "Why are you going to Vegas? You should be prepping for the game on Sunday." So Andy Dalton jokes are in full effect. I wish my fellow Ginger brethren the best of luck, but he's no Dak Prescott. I wish Dak a speedy recovery as well. You never want to see anybody go down with an injury like that.
Yes, definitely. All right, let's get to our stacks.
Goingfor2.com's weekly stack report.
All right, we pretty much gave our stacks. It seems like through the show here, but Tim, give me your stack.
Yeah, I did. I said it from the very beginning. It's going to be Ryan Tannehill, A.J. Brown, and Will Fuller. You can put Derrick Henry in there as well, even though he's not a pass catcher, just because he's got such a high ceiling at his current price. I don't expect him to catch a lot of passes, but if you want to basically capture all of the Titans' points, I think that's a good way to do it.
All right, Gerson.
Well, I gave it out early on. I thought I did, but it was actually Tim's stack. But my stack is actually Kirk Cousins, Thielen, Irv Smith Jr., and bringing back with Ridley.
I like it. So mine, like I mentioned, I do like this game with the Jacksonville Jaguars and the Detroit Lions. So give me Stafford, Galladay, Hawkinson, and then Chenault if Shark is out. If Shark plays for some reason, then I'll probably throw Shark into tournaments just because he has the higher upside, I think, with the big playability. So that's my stack for the week. All right, so let's get to the sick call.
And now, the sick call of the week.
And I gotta say, this week's sick calls are really, really sick because I had a hard time finding anybody. Man, I was looking into the deep depths of super, super cheap guys trying to find somebody. So Gerson, give us your sick call.
Man, you're not lying because I legit it took me to today, to 10 minutes ago to actually find a sick call. It's Darnell Mooney, the wide receiver for the Chicago Bears, facing the Carolina Panthers. He's 3,000. I think a lot of focus is going to be on Allen Robinson, David Montgomery, and Jimmy Graham. I think he's going to get an opportunity with Nick Foles. So if he's 3,000 in this game environment, I just hope for at least 10 points out of him. And we've seen Darnell Mooney come out of nowhere before, too.
Yep.
So it's just 3,000. I was shocked that he was 3,000 because he's still getting snap share.
Yep.
What's snap? What is it? Snap shares? Is it snap
Snapshare,
shares?
yeah.
Yeah, snap share. Go ahead.
Yeah, snap shares. So, yeah, I love me Darnell Mooney at 3,000. Obviously, guys, I'm telling you, if there's any week not to play our sick calls, it's probably
This is probably the week. This is probably the week. I agree.
I know.
All right.
I didn't want to repeat Bird or Jeff Smith because they're both viable plays.
Mm-hmm.
So coming up with a sick call was really tough this week. And I went with he's 4,500, so it doesn't sound like a sick call, but it's DeAndre Swift. And this one made me sick to put, but it's just because the Jacksonville Jaguars are so bad against the run. They're 31st DVOA, so the Jets are worse, and then they're second. But it's the fact that they're actually getting him involved in the passing game, which I thought was interesting. He had 4 targets last time. He had 5 targets earlier in the season. So I think if there's anybody that could maybe catch a pass and go for a long one at a sick call at 1% ownership, it might be old Swifty there. So he's going to be my sick call this week.
All right.
Double digit 3 of the 4 weeks he played. 5
Yeah.
weeks.
Yeah.
4 weeks.
So my sick call is super sick, and I didn't even want to put it on the list because it was that sick. But Le'Veon Bell's no longer with the Jets, so now LaMichael P. Ryan is going to be my sick call this week at 4,000. I think the coach came out and said that they couldn't ride Frank Gore. He's a 37-year-old running back. They can't keep him, constantly running the ball. So P. Ryan will get his shot against the Giants. It's not pretty. It's P. Ryan. He hasn't been very good all year. But you know what? At 4K, I think that's minimum salary for running backs. Why not? Just throw him into a lineup and just see what happens.
I'm actually glad you picked P. Ryan so that I can have the opportunity to say, please, for the love of God, do not play Frank Gore. Okay? I saw somebody's like, oh, he's going to get the touches. He's only 4K. Okay, it's 2020. Please do not play Frank Gore. Please.
Yeah, no Frank Gore.
2045, you're still going to be talking about Frank Gore, too.
Dude, I swear.
All right, guys, that wraps up the show. Let's go around the room really quick and just talk about where we can find you on Sundays, Tim.
Yeah, man. As always, find us in the DFS Roundtable, a.k.a. the Fantasy G Podcast. Get in the chat roll. We answer questions all the way up to lock. And then, of course, watch Gerson on his Sunday morning video on the Going for Two.
Yep, Going for Two live, the War Room Show Sunday at 11:30 Eastern Standard Time. So you can definitely check that out. Gerson, give us a plug.
Hey, well, you can find Tim on Sunday. He's going to be at the strip club with Aspire. Fucking $100 at the...
I will not be available this Sunday. Yeah, do not ask me any questions this Sunday. I will not be available.
You know,
ask Gerson.
Man, you crazy.
I'm going to be putting 6, 7, 8 game parlays where I'm just drunk as shit and I don't even care.
Nice.
So
I love it.
Please do not message me on Sunday. I will not be available.
I love it.
I want all my money on the Raiders. I believe in them.
So,
Sir, they don't play this week.
yeah.
You can find me on the Sunday show for Going for Two with Gladys, Jared, and Himad. Tune in. I'm actually the first 30 minutes now because I need 1 hour to do all my rosters. Not that I don't play with thousands of rosters or, but the DFS Roundtable group, find us there, man. Tuesday Waiver Wire 2. Peace out.
All right, guys. As always, you can follow me on Twitter at JeffLambert77, on Facebook, and pretty much every Facebook group there is. It seems like I'm in all of them, so you can find me in all those places. With that, for Tim, for Gerson, I'm Geoff, and we'll see you next week.
This is our shortest show, guys. The shortest show ever.
Go Pack, go!
It's the shortest show, shortest slate of the year, longest show.